So in the Gulf of Mexico, we're forecasting the size of the dead zone. It's actually called hypoxia. It's very low oxygen in the Gulf. In the Chesapeake, we're also doing a forecast for the size of its dead zone. And in Lake Erie, the forecast is about the extent of the toxic algae in the Western Basin. So the forecasts come from models, computer models. In all three cases, the primary driver is how much of the phosphorus or nitrogen is going into the system. So these models are built to look at the relationship between those loads and the size of the dead zone. The dead zones in the Gulf and the Chesapeake and Lake Erie are caused by too much algae growth in those systems. The algae sink to the bottom, decompose, and use up the oxygen. The excessive algae are being produced by too much nitrogen and phosphorus going into those systems from land. Most of that nitrogen and phosphorus is coming from agriculture. In all three cases, it's depriving the fisheries, the ecosystems, of habitat. In the Gulf of Mexico, it's no oxygen. So the fish, the shrimp that need that can't be in their favorite habitat. The toxic algae problem in the western basin of Lake Erie, it is toxic. It's toxic to the animals, but it's most importantly, it's toxic to humans, and we drink that water. Annual forecasts serve two purposes. One is it reminds everybody each year that this is still a problem, it hasn't gone away, hasn't gotten any better. Second thing is these same models that are used to do annual forecasts are used for scenarios. So you can ask these same models, well, how low do the nutrient loads have to be in order to prevent low oxygen into the future? So the three forecasts for this year are that the conditions in Lake Erie and the Gulf and the Chesapeake are going to be average. And it's really important to recognize that average is not acceptable. There are lots of programs in place to try to reduce the loss of the nitrogen and phosphorus from the land. We've spent billions of dollars over the last decade or so supporting those programs. But unfortunately, the loads coming off those lands and into the Gulf, the Chesapeake, and Lake Erie have not changed. So we have to do more. Coalitions of health, the economics, the greenhouse gases, and the environment need to all come together to make these kinds of changes.